We live? Yes, we are live. Okay. All right, we live. Welcome. Weekly live stream. Today is Thursday, so it seems that Thursday is the day. I'm really committing to every Thursday from here on out. Every Thursday. We did last Thursday. Thursday was the day last week. I said last week that it could be Wednesday or Thursday, but I'm committing to Thursday evening, sometime between 6 and 7. Just want to come on live and do at least 30 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes. Last week we did over an hour. If we go over an hour, then great. Then obviously it was a lot to say and to talk about. Yeah. So yes, so today we're gonna build on this concept we introduced last week on sensitivity, and always after the fact when I do a talk or a presentation or a discussion, I think of things after the fact, and so yeah, this thing I didn't want to leave it alone. I wanted to really continue to build on it. And one of the things that we got into or that I talked about was, developing a fasting rhythm. And one of the easiest, most common way to, at least as far as a ritual rhythm practice, is the idea of a fasting one day a week, at least one day a week, every week, having a fasting day. So with that being said, next week I want to kind of give a preview into next week's session. Next week I'm gonna really get into the astrology. I touched on a little bit of it, but next week I really want to commit to building um, the astrological knowledge on, incorporating like a healthy rhythm in terms of a healthy weekly rhythm of fasting because when we can use these sciences together in a cooperative way, again, this is about sensitivity, and it's just like establishing a sensitivity to the, let's say, we just had I believe we just had a full moon, new moon, equinoxes, solstices, etc. When we're really able to really kind of just be sensitive and understand that when this phenomena happens, energetically we're all affected, but it's only if we're sensitive to it, if we establish a sensitivity, and by establishing a sensitivity we're establishing a practice, we're establishing a rhythm that allows us to benefit, because if we're sensitive to this phenomena, then we can coordinate our eating and not eating, our work and non-work, rest, all of our daily life activities that affect us, and create efficiency. When we create efficiency for this body and our temple, we we can get a better use out of it. It won't break down. It will, be able to basically serve us as we serve it, under the ideal rhythm. So next week, I'm really excited. Tune in. If you're subscribed to the channel, great. You want to make sure you hit the notification if you want to tune in live. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I got my new IG posted, Dr. Kepper. You can follow me on there if you want to donate to the channel. There's my Cash App, Kepper Raw. Yeah. So let's get into part two of this sensitivity, because you know, it was a concept, you know, because one of the things, and you know, I did mention the fact that I was introduced to this concept reading the great Hilton Hotema, and I actually do have a copy of the book. I didn't have it. I didn't. I didn't have it. I had it. I just wasn't aware that I had it. So this is the book, Hilton Hotema, Man's Higher Consciousness. If you haven't read this, it's not in your library. I definitely would consider definitely adding. This is a fantastic book. It's, you know, as I said about him, he wrote, you know, he touched on a lot of metaphysics, but he definitely got into health. And in this particular book, it's mainly about our physical health. Even though the title of the book is "Man Higher Consciousness," but in this book, you know, where I was introduced to the concept of sensitivity, being sensitive, you know, as we establish sensitivity, higher sensitivity, we're establishing a higher level of health. You know, you know, I think he mentioned, you know, he talked about like Native Americans and how sensitive they were, you know, compared to like Europeans that showed up, how they were really desensitized. And so, you know, with American Indians or Native Americans or just native indigenous folks who were introduced to, you know, a different diet, uh, different this different way of living, where it had a you know, profound impact negatively on their health because they had a higher level of sensitivity. You know, so you know, legendary book, definitely check it out. Also, you know, I talk about it. There's a chapter in my book, Paradise Health, and I will have more copies on my website. On my website, I'll have I'm going to be getting actual more copies in definitely by the first week of March. So if you want to get an autographed copy, you can order through my website. If you'd like to get it on Kindle or through Amazon, you can order it through there. I don't really get any proceeds from that. It's very minimal. But if you like to get an autographed copy, and you know, I know that I have a few outstanding orders to fill. So if you're tuning in, he's like, I ordered my book, I ain't get my book. Kept trying to pull one over on me. No, your book is on the way. Like I said, I'm waiting for the copies to come in. It should be here within the next 2 weeks, first week of March for sure. All right. So I appreciate your patience and understanding. But yes, there's a chapter in my book called Raising Your Sensitivity. Raising your sensitivity. So, you know, I go into, you know, the whole idea. I share a story about, because I did read through it. I shared a story about I was having a lot of intense knee pain. I was doing like, you know, some, you know, really trying to, you know, I played a lot of sports growing up, and I created a lot of stiffness. There was a lot of mineral deposits in my joints, specifically my knees. I could not do a full like squat. I could squat, but like if I let my toes come up and, you know, like you know how you sit on your heels, oh, that was extremely painful, extremely painful. So I talk about how when I started doing coconut water fasting, again, raising my sensitivity, how that eliminated a lot of that pain. And today I've worked through that. That's like a thing of the past. I can sit on my feet. I can sit in between my feet. You know how the kids, they just plop down on a hard floor, and they sitting down in between. Their butt is in between. Their feet is right here, and their butt is right here. Yeah, I could do that. Like, you know. So again, you know, I mean, it was a lot of hard work, but yeah, you know, flexibility is a level of sensitivity. You know, becoming more flexible. So yeah, uh, yeah. So yeah, I got a new IG. The new IG is on the tag. You see the new IG? I see the question here. So yes, if you look at the tag here, Dr. Kepper, Dr. Kepper, that's my new IG. All right. So yes. So sensitivity part two. Um, Another story I'll share with y'all, and I think this was more in as far as just really an instinct. I feel because one of the things when we think about sensitivity, we talk about herbs, and probably the most common, the most popular by far herb that we all know about and maybe we've all indulged on some level at some point in our lives is what we call back in the day reefer, uh, marijuana, uh, Chiba was another name back home, and I'm sure other names as well. And one of the things, I don't know how old I was. When I first smoked marijuana, um, I had to be at least 12, maybe 13. Uh, Definitely wasn't. I definitely was younger than 14. So somewhere between 12 and 15, or 12 and 13. When I first smoked, I had smoked some marijuana, and obviously, again, a 12-year-old body is going to be super sensitive to some marijuana. So you can only imagine the feeling that I felt if you've ever done it for the first time. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a high, definitely amazing feeling that I had. And that was great. That was great. But here was the thing, when I did it the second time, that's when my little 12, 13-year-old mind was like, okay, I immediately understood that by doing it a second time and not getting the same feeling as the first time, that in order for me to achieve the high that I achieved the first time, I would have to do something stronger. And see, when we start looking at this concept of sensitivity, because in life, all of us are either becoming more sensitive or more healthy, or less sensitive or less healthy. We're you're none of us are standing still. And that's what I really wanted to present today and really drive home this point to understand that you're either moving in one direction or you're moving in another direction. And so, with that experience I had by, smoking marijuana the first time as a young teenager, and feeling this incredible high the first time. The second time, I don't even know if I got a buzz. It may have been like a whatever. And I realized I'm like, either I gotta smoke twice as much or do something stronger, because now I've lowered my sensitivity. And so, you can only imagine. We all know people who just smoke chronically, um, daily, or do it all the time. And not just, that's just one example. How about alcohol? How about food? So all of those things that we're putting into our system is, again, you got to ask yourself, and, am I, where's my sensitivity level? What level of sensitivity am I on, where I can, the effect that this happens? Because everything that we're putting into our system, even like we can even introduce the concept of healing herbs. And some of you, I'm sure, would even make the case for marijuana to be a healing herb. Well, I'll group them pretty much all together. Obviously, the marijuana has the THC, which creates the high, as we all know about. But then also, as it's become very well popular, is the CBD. Say, well, what about CBD? Or what about just I'm taking an herbal cleanse. I had a client that asked me about they were going to do my juice cleanse, and they asked about doing their herbs. And um my reply to herbs and herbal cleanse, again, when we look at it in the reference, in the framework of sensitivity, we really start to almost expose what is happening, and what is really providing the healing. Because if we're becoming more sensitive, there's nothing outside of us that is, with maybe one exception, but I won't get into that right now. But for the most part, there is nothing outside of us that's going to create a higher sensitivity. Herbs are not going to create. In fact, all herbs are going to really desensitize. And like say for example, you got like a colon. I don't want to call it cleansing, because it's not colon cleansing. It's colon stimulating. When we look at the like something like Cascara Sagrada or Senna, you got the psyllium husk. These are not colon cleansing herbs. These are colon stimulating herbs. So anything that is going to stimulate us or overstimulate us is not cleansing us. It's not creating a higher level of health. It's actually desensitizing us, in the same way that me smoking marijuana for the first time was desensitizing me. And when I smoked it the second time, my 12, 13-year-old brain was like, you know what? Nah, this is not something I want to continue doing, because I understand, like what am I chasing? Like if I'm chasing a high just to get high, like and I'm gonna get into that later, because the whole concept, like, this really starts to relate to pain versus pleasure. Because it's like, why are people drinking, overindulging in food, smoking? What is really behind that? Like, what is really what is really motivating us to continue to indulge into these things that are continuously desensitizing us? Because the thing is that, as I said, none of us are staying stagnant. So even if you're, quote unquote, healthy, I mean, what does that even mean? You know, you can't. I mean, I've been eating only raw food now into 22, 21, 22 years. I've been practicing urine for now almost 2 years. That's raised my sensitivity. Um, Obviously, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a leader. I've been a it's part of my mission, and my life purpose is to motivate and inspire, whether it's the new generation or who or whatever. This is why I know why I'm here, or a big part of why I'm here. So the thing is like, even for somebody like me, where I've like this is my life's work. uh you know I'm not I can't rest or be satisfied where I'm at on a health level. Like, none of us can. So we really have to continue to do the best we can with what we can, but continue to move forward. It's all about, we either moving forward or we're moving backwards. We're not None of us are stationary in this movement. So with the levels, um how do we raise our, I touched on this last week. We definitely talked about fasting. But the thing is that, like, how do you know that you've reached a new level? I mean, because the thing is like, if for people that's just out here, they're just floating through life. They're just, doing, they're, I mean, we know what's happening. They are lowering and lowering their levels of sensitivity, lowering and lowering their levels of sensitivity. So, with, yeah, I'm going to get to your question, Bongo. That kind of threw off my train of thought. So Bongo, my brother Bongo asked a question about the marijuana, and we're gonna get into that. But how do we know we reached a higher level? Well, we know it relates to the, when we talk about pain and pleasure, because when we're doing things for pain, or we're doing things, it's almost like, is pleasure should ultimately be the thing that motivates us. And when we're creating a higher level of health, pleasure is going to be the ultimate uh, victory that we attain if we're led by pain. I talked about this a few months ago, while I was in Panama, and the thing is that when we get into, if we're being led by pleasure, then ultimately pain follows. If we so let's get it let's discuss that to really explain that and make that clear. So for example, it's like, I feel hungry, then I eat, I'm full. Now if you're eating, if let's say you're not eating consciously, you're just eating just to feed your nature, to feed your animal craving. So if you're doing that just for the sake of eating, then, and if you just continue to eat with no sort of rhythm, no sort of discipline, you're allowing pleasure to feed you. And then you follow that up with, because what happens is that, with that, let's say it's some, whether it's even if it's vegan or it's cooked or some cooked food that we know that's going to create toxicity in the body. It's going to create excess mucus in the body. Okay, but it tastes good, right? Then yeah, it's going to be pleasurable eating that food, but then there's going to be pain in terms of digestion that food. When the body starts to really have to overwork to digest that food and process that food, then obviously pain is going to result. Whether it's pain right in that moment, sluggishness, being tired, getting the itis, or there's pain is going to be result in terms of, developing some sort of healing crisis, whether it could be, something with congestion, something with pains and aches, something with nausea, and etc. I mean, we all know the sicknesses, but again, that's an example of being led by pleasure, but then having a result of pain. Now, if we're led by pain, if we're led by pain, pain is in terms of, it's not necessarily a feeling of pain, but it's pain in the sense that I'm using discipline. I'm restricting myself. I'm saying there's one part of your brain that's saying, or one part of yourself that's saying, I want this, or I wouldn't mind having this, but I know better. And I'm gonna use discipline. I'm gonna use pain in a sense to say, you know what, I'm gonna do this instead. So through that pain of restriction, then there's a pleasure on the other side of that, because you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better about, you should feel confident, or feel a sense of victory that you were able to discipline yourself. But then you should also feel a physical pleasure in terms of the result of being disciplined. Like, for example, doing a fast. Your body, especially the first, if you're going to do an extended fast, like I mean, we all know, if you've had that experience, those first couple of days are going to be tough, or tougher than the remaining days after you get over that hump. And typically, it takes at least 2 to 3 days to get over that hump. So after that second, third day, it's like people. I mean, the testimonials, like, man, I felt amazing. My energy went up. My eyes got brighter. My skin cleared up. My face slimmed down. I just, it just goes on and on and on. There's nothing outside of us taking anything in that's going to make us feel like that, unless it's a stimulant. See, the thing is that, by bringing things in that have to stimulate us to feel a sense of pleasure, that's desensitizing us. That's going to desensitize us. And so as we, again, so that's how it relates to the pain and the pleasure. Pain and pleasure are something that is going to be linked with, in terms of, when we really think about, um, levels of sensitivity. Because as we raise our sensitivity levels, then things become, it's almost like drinking alcohol for the first time. That's another example. I mean, folks can drink alcohol and feel incredible, like just lowers all inhibitions. You feel relaxed. You're just becoming more and more. They say the alcohol starts talking. But I mean, think about what it's doing to your system in order for you to feel like that. So again, sensitivity is health. And when we're creating high levels of health, we want to raise our levels of health. It's going to take pain initially. It's going to take withdrawal. It's going to take detox. Coffee is another one. My sister, shout out to her, addicted to coffee. And apparently came down. Apparently had a health crisis. I'm not gonna say what it was, or what it, but she used that as an opportunity to say, you know what, I think it's time for me to. I mean, when you can't, when you can't go a whole day without ingesting that thing, then I mean, you got to really start asking some hard questions, and really start looking at yourself and saying, like, wow, is this an addiction? Or is this something that, like, if you can't function without it for more than 24 hours, or 48 hours, or 72 hours, then that's something, that, again, the stimulant has become a thing where now the body starts to rely on it just for basic functioning. And that, for our society, coffee, caffeine has become that stimulant, which, ultimately is going to lead down a serious bad road. So many people really, suffer from this, and depending on, because the thing is, like, we're all looking for more energy. That's another thing, because the thing is that one of the things that I think we really take for granted is sleep, rest. Uh, Fasting. I talk a lot about fasting. And what is fasting? Fasting essentially is rest. It's a level of rest. And we don't, in terms of, really establishing a level of health, it's all about rest and regeneration. When we rest, we heal. So if you're not able to sleep well, then that's going to really ripple through the rest of your life. And all of us have responsibilities. We got to work. We got to have energy. We got to have vitality to do a certain thing. Okay, so if we're relying upon something outside of us to bring into us in order to whip us into shape, then that's not good. That's not good. So we really have to look at that and really come up with a plan to get better rest. Basically, raise your level of sensitivity to raise it to a point where you don't have to rely on those things, and that the energy that you have, because and that's one of the things that happens when we start to fast. When we start to fast, we start to undo the layers of toxins, because it's the layers of toxins that build up that allow us to say, you know what, I need a stronger stimulant because I'm desensitized. And we keep reaching for stronger and stronger stimulants, whether it's stronger in the sense of food, stronger in the sense of smoke, stronger in the sense of drink, whether it be caffeinated or alcoholic. So these are things that we all have to look at, because like I said, even for someone like myself who over 20 years of doing this lifestyle where I haven't touched any of those kinds of things, um there's levels of sensitivity for me. Obviously I know I can't go out to my local, out here to a burger joint and just eat a bunch of fries and sandwich and like I might die doing that. That's how sensitive that I've made myself. But at the same time, even with the raw food that I make, I have to limit my intake. I used to, put down these huge portions, wild rice and the hemp burger and the lasagna and the pizza and the savory pie, the sweet pie, all raw, but very dense, very very filling. The body still has to work to process it and digest it. And yeah, it's got enzymes and it's got vitamins and balanced minerals and all of those nice sounding things. But food at the end of the day is still food. And the body still has to work hard to process food, period. So even for me, like I said, it doesn't matter what level you attain. None of us are exempt. um you know just even for the highest level, like we look at like the highest level athlete has to continue to work out to maintain their high level of athleticism. So as health seekers, all of us as health seekers, we have to continue to challenge ourselves. There's no end goal. There's no end marker. The process is in the journey itself. That's the end game. The end game is the process. Once we establish the process, then we stay with the process. And the thing is that one of the things that, and this is gonna be my last point, and I'll take a few questions, and then we'll wrap this up. But um, one of the ways that that your level is raising, that you're raising level. When you can destimulate, when you can do a practice where you're destimulating yourself and you start to feel amazing. There's an amazing it's a process that happens, that when you went on that 14-day fast, and especially that second week, maybe you went 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you felt amazing. So you're going through a process of sensitivity, creating more sensitivity. However, what happens is that it levels off, as it should. See, as health seekers, we're not constantly looking for the high. We're not looking for that euphoria. Feeling good is not always necessarily going to like make you, in a sense, look at yourself or feel yourself feeling extra good. Like if you feel good, you feel good. Like feeling good should just be, things that are normal, you don't necessarily notice. So it's not necessarily noticeable that, wow, I feel amazing. Because you feel amazing. If you feel amazing all the time, it's gonna be normal. So that's one of the things when we start to raise our level of sensitivity, you start to normalize what feels amazing. And you only notice when you start to do something that takes you down. It's a very important concept I want to really bring home here, because let's say you went raw, right? You uncooked and you went raw, and you're like, man, you go through that honeymoon phase. You raising your sensitivity. So that honeymoon phase, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna be like, man, this is incredible. But then that becomes normal. You don't necessarily, you feel good, but it's not like you know, like a process happening in your body where you feel a difference because it's normal. But then what happens? It's like now it's like, you know, you say you're there for a few years, which is great. But now, because even like I could talk about even my journey, like my first 2 years. Well, my first year I did a lot of fasting, and I became uh actually I had given up on fasting. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought just doing raw, all raw, would be good enough. And after 2 years, and this is when I was having a lot of knee pain. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was really trying to, create more movement in my knees. I was doing capoeira, and I was in a lot of pain. And again, while I was raising my sensitivity, I fell into, I guess, a level. And in order for me to go higher, I had to reintroduce fasting. And when I got into, and that was when I got introduced to the idea of coconut water fasting. And with doing the coconut water fasting, see, it was different than what I was doing before. See, I was doing distilled water, I was doing spring water, and basically pipe water, as I call it. All right. When I started doing coconut water, it was a whole new level. I was like, this is the only water I'm gonna drink, and that's the only water that I've drunk since. That was at least 20 years ago. So for the last 20 years, I've drunk coconut water. Then I had almost 2 years ago, I had a similar experience when I decided to start doing my own urine. It was a euphoria. The first few months, I was like, man, I feel amazing every day. So these are levels, these are benchmarks. But then what happens is that it normalizes. We're not chasing the high for the sake of the high. it will happen as a result of that honeymoon phase. But the thing is like I mention this because I think what we see I think this is what allows people to really get, uh, I wanted to say addicted, or maybe addicted, but addicted in a different sense, addicted to that euphoric feeling, and you know, that is not always good, because sometimes, and like in this world of raw food, I typically will see like when people just want to eat, or just restrict themselves to just eating fruit, because if we just, we are fruitarians, that is our makeup. However, there's other foods under the fruitarian umbrella, like greens and leaves and herbs and nuts and seeds, things that are more grounding, things that are more heavy. See, eating high level fruits and just light foods. Yes, it's light and it's euphoric, but the thing is like eating just fruits can lead to deficiencies. And sometimes we need to eat these grounding foods. We need to come back to earth. Because yeah, the fruits are gonna have us on a high, for sure. But again, it's all a dance. It's all a balancing act. And ultimately we're either becoming more sensitive or less sensitive. And as we want to create higher sensitivity, but we want to do it within balance. All right. So yeah. So I'm gonna take some questions. Just again as a reminder, next week we're gonna really get into the days of the week. I'm gonna introduce some astrological concepts. I'm really excited about that. But I'm gonna spend a few more minutes here. We'll take some questions. Yeah, man, we gotta get into this. It always comes up anytime I touch on it. Yes, my dear brother Bongo. Yeah, why you and the Reese attack weed? We all have a compromise somewhere, and y'all have less than optimal habit ways to grow. Your car exhaust is more damaging to the world than my split process. Hey, bro. Yes, I love you, and yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's not an attack. Again, I see people smoke weed, and I don't know. There's no way I can co-sign. Have people benefited? Again, I mean, we're all here. This is all a journey. Life here is for me to say that smoking weed is not healthy. It's not healthy for me. But if anybody was to ask me, Kepra, do you think I should smoke weed? I'm gonna tell them no. But look, to each his own. I can't say that it has not helped people, but like I said before, there's one healer, and it doesn't exist outside of us. It's only our bodies. So if you took herbs, if you whatever those herbs might be, if you took a supplement, there's nothing that you can put out from outside of yourself to bring inside of yourself to heal you, other than urine. But even outside of the urine, your body is designed to self-heal. So if it's coming in, it's going to if it helps to ease conditions and things that are difficult, that you're having difficulty with a health crisis, is doing it by stimulating you, and that's not quote unquote healing you. And the thing is that, like, for example, colonic, a lot of people do colonics, enemas, colonics, No other animal in nature does a colonic, or an enema for that matter. If you backed up, your digestion is tired. And the thing is that if you go on a fast, especially coconut water and urine, which is what I highly recommend, that's going to flush your colon out. And it's not going to do it by overstimulating your colon. It's going to allow your colon to get the rest that it needs and allow it to move when it's ready to move. So yeah. So we'll just leave that there. Um, okay, well, this is good. Urine sound like a stimulant to me, bro. So you justify what you chase. Okay, I got it. Your herb is a euphoric feeling, so that's hey, I'm gonna let you live. Is urine a stimulant? Well, I mean, I guess in a sense you can call it a stimulant. But the thing is that here it is. I made it, and we all make it. And the thing is that while it does, because again, there was definitely a honeymoon phase. When I started doing my own urine, it was definitely this euphoria I felt. Do I get that euphoria all the time? Not necessarily. I mean, if I really think about it, I'm like, man, yeah, I do feel good. I feel great. I feel amazing. I can go out here. I got energy. Vitality. I feel it, but at the same time, um, I'm not feeling like overly stimulated. So the thing is that I wouldn't call it a stimulant in the same sense that we have other, uh, you know, I was gonna say toxins, but no, herbs and supplements and medicines and all of those things. So, okay, yeah, it's like every week I gotta explain the urine. Yeah, so yes, I did say urine. Urine therapy has been practiced since the beginning. We've all done it. Before you took your first breath, you drank your mother's urine for the first trimester, and then you drank your urine for the second and third trimester. And that allowed your organs to develop, your skin to develop, your whole body to develop. And the thing is that the urine is two things that I say about the urine. And this is not anything I read in any book. If you're curious about it, there's a few books that I do recommend, but these are my own. The two things I'm going to mention are my own internal observation insight. The first thing is that food, everything outside of us. Again, there's nothing that outside of us that can truly uh, heal us. Yes, it can nurture us and provide nourishment and those kinds of things, but they're still apart from us. All right, and it's really it's while it's great, like for example, coconut water. I love coconut water. Been drinking coconut water primarily as my only water for 20 years. But the coconut water is still not a part of me. But if I drink the coconut water and it comes out, it's not waste. That excess. If I drink coconut water for 2 weeks and nothing else, what's coming out of me is not waste. It's not waste. It's the blood. That's what the kidneys do. The kidneys take the excess water from the blood. So if I drink my blood, I'm essentially drinking my urine. But what the kidneys is doing is taking the excess water from the blood and providing the urine. Now here's the thing. if I re-ingest that urine that was once coconut water, that's something familiar to me. That's something that I made from the coconut water. That's something that my body now recognizes. That's something that, because it was a part of me, now all of the minerals and the enzymes in that coconut water, my body can now properly utilize. So when we eat food and drink water or whatever it is for the first time, we don't really get it. See, that was what I, that was my own internal observation. That was the first thing. And the second thing is, we come from in the womb, drinking the urine, all your own urine, that second and third trimester. And then what do we come out and what do we do? Whether you breastfed or not, you're drinking another fluid created by your mother. We all know that the breast milk is the best for the baby, right? So the thing is that, again, even though we know, we can say, oh, uh, can I feed this to the baby? Can I feed that to the baby? It's not, no matter how nutritious it is, the baby is not ready to process it. The baby can't process it. The mother has to eat it, take it, and put it in a form that the baby now can utilize. That is what we're doing with our own urine. We are putting food that we eat in a form that our body can recognize. I am convinced, almost 2 years doing this every single day, I am convinced that not only the urine is not waste, it is, we urinate first and foremost to re-ingest it. I am 1000% convinced of that. 1000% convinced of that. So that's what I'm gonna say about the urine. Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about I find that doing raw food, we don't mesh. Well, I mean, my brother Bongo, I think, I'm not sure if he 100% raw. Um, maybe you could chime in on that, brother Bongo. Um, I know a Reese, he talks about, like, when he was smoked, it would be difficult for him to stay raw. Um, and he explained, I mean, you can go back and look at our interview online. I don't want to go back and hash on that. But again, I mean, you are bringing the fire. I mean, one of the things he does talk about is, juicing, blending, keeping it raw, if you're going to ingest it. Um, so, yeah. Oh, yes, he did say 100% raw, 100% toker. All right, there we go. There we go. All right. What else we got here? What are a few of your go-to winter foods? Yeah, winter is tough, man. It's tough. This winter has been hard for me. It's really been hard. I was in Panama basically from September through December, and been back here in DC since January 1st, and it's not been easy. So go-to foods. Well, I mentioned one last week. Citrus fruits. Like citrus are in season right now, and while that may not be like a heating food or something that warms the body per se, it is definitely something that we should be indulging in right now. Like today, I had like 10 grapefruits. That's been like my go-to winter food. um, I really don't concern myself with eating like heavier foods per se. Even though if you're eating lighter in the winter, yeah, you're gonna be more sensitive. Again, sensitivity. You're gonna be more sensitive to the cold. But if you're eating, like greens, nuts, and seeds, heavier, foods, olives, avocados, things that have, that's more than enough. We don't need to eat starches, and especially like potatoes or yams or beans and heavy grains to create warmth in the body. In fact, the body has to work harder to process those foods in addition to try to, because the thing is, any excuse to use that to, as far as like eating those foods in order to feel warm or warmer in the wintertime is to me an excuse. So the thing is that, I think if anything, it's more psychological than anything. And however, if you aim to go raw and stay raw, you got to get through the winter, at least one winter, because if you're able to get through the winter, and one of the things that I do that helps me, because there are times, yeah, I wake up and it may not even be that cold, but I'm shivering. Like let's say, like if it's really cool, or we have a cold stretch where temperatures are really low, and my house, I don't have it that heated, and I don't want to necessarily dress in layers. Then one thing I do is I take a hot bath. I create like a sauna, and or going to a sauna. you know that's really, really a powerful thing to do. One of the things I used to do is, and I would still do it. I haven't thought about it, but one food that does warm the body is red ginseng. If you have a Chinatown in your city, we have a Chinatown here. Um, I go there, I get a pound of red ginseng, and I just, they have the slices or the roots. I used to just suck on a root, and I felt like it had a warming effect in my body. Red ginseng has definitely a heating element. We get into Chinese medicine. Um, so that's another thing. I haven't done that this winter, but that's what I've done in the past. All right. Reese is a big juicer. Do you feel as though we're juicing too much? Do you feel as though we're juicing too? Well, I guess you're saying. Are you asking me? Do you feel like that he juices too much? I find myself having much less tolerance for fiber when chewing. Okay, I find myself having much less tolerance for fiber when chewing. Um, I mean, this is a good, you know, thought process. I mean, one thing we gotta, Reese is gonna be 75 this year. I feel like, obviously as an elder, and as a legend really in this game of raw food, juicing. I mean, he's a legend, and he's still around, and I feel like he's led by not only his creativity but his experience. Um, I mean, the thing is that I feel like um, he's benefiting. And while I may not agree 100% or do 100% like he's doing, I mean, maybe in when I'm that age, and 20 plus years, when I reach that level, I may be doing the same thing. I don't know. But I do feel like, I mean, there is a place for fiber. And the thing is like, is a difference between fruits and vegetables. Um, you know, we look at fruits, and especially like when I'm making juices, a lot of fruits are almost like one with the fiber. So, if you're eating mostly fruits or juicing the fruits, um, a lot of times, even if I'm making a juice per se, I like to, I would just keep the fiber in there because a lot of the juices I make, I do use coconut water in addition to the, the fruit itself. Like for example, mango, right? Mango, I mean, it's like the juice in the pulp is like one. Even like fruits like pears, that's another good example. Pears are another fruit that doesn't really separate. The juice doesn't separate like easily from the fiber. Um, I mean, there are countless examples, right? Where the fruit in the fiber. Now, vegetables is a little different. And there are fruits that like for example, pineapple. Pineapple, technically not a fruit, but for all intents and purposes in this discussion, like we look at fruit and fruit fibers, we'll classify pineapple in this argument as a fruit. And with the pineapple does the juice does come relatively easy off of the fiber. But for most of our fruits, it's like it's one thing, and that's really the optimal food for us. Fruit with the fiber, because essentially the fiber is part of the. Even though we pass the fiber on, part of eating the fiber is like protein. That's like our that is our protein per se. That creates this, building block for, because we don't really need that much protein. We really need more sugar than anything else, in water, obviously first and foremost. So the thing is like now we're getting into chewing, because it's like chewing is like, that's the thing with juicing. It's like we're really removing the act of chewing. Now, there's pros and cons. Obviously, I can make a strong case for not only chewing but also digesting the fruit with the fiber. But then it's like, well, if I remove the juice from the fiber, again, we gotta weigh the pros and cons. So I feel like if you're doing a fast or a juice cleanse, then obviously you're going to benefit from removing the fiber or the juice from the fiber, because the thing is that um, by doing that, the act of chewing. I mean, let's be honest, you're not fasting technically. Even if you're just eating fruit, you're not fasting. And there's something about just having a rest from chewing, but still drinking watermelon juice or even coconut water, or even if it's a smoothie, because you're blending your mango or even something like banana, and I mean it's fiber in there, but you're not chewing. The blender, the blade did all the chewing for you, but now you're bringing it in, and your body is still processing it as fiber, even though the fiber is broken down. So again, there's all kinds of pros and cons. Um, I don't, I'm not one of these people that say, oh, well, we shouldn't juice, and I'm not going to be one of these people. I understand, I look at both sides, but at the end of the day, if you're under this umbrella, you're going to be benefiting. Even if you're doing smoothies, say you're doing smoothies for 3 weeks, you're going to get healthier. You're going to raise your sensitivity. I mean, like even those hardcore folks like can't argue against that. They say, oh, you gotta just drink water, or you shouldn't juice. It's like the oxidation, and it loses its potency. It loses its, you're going to benefit. Even if I juice something, if I make juice, and I leave it. Let's say I have, like, normally when I make juices, it's good for at least 7 days. It's good for about 7 days in the refrigerator. If I make a gallon of juice and I leave it in the refrigerator for 7 days, and I come in that seventh day and I drink it, it's going to benefit me. Now, is it going to be as fresh and as tasty and as beneficial as it made it the first day? Of course not. But it's still going to benefit me. If it's in there 3-4 days, like, it's going to benefit me. Like, my body is going to benefit. Period. Because the thing is this. Again, like I said, we got to get out of this mindset of looking for things outside of us to heal us. It doesn't work that way. There's one healer. There's one disease and there's one healer. See, I'm gonna get more into that in the future, but in terms of disease, but there's essentially one disease, toxemia, and there's one healer. One healer is self-healing, and the best way to self-heal is to fast. We do our fasting, we allow our body to do the self-healing. Because even if you're not fasting, even if, let's say, you're in the hospital, you got IVs up in you, they got you on the meds and all that. Guess what is still responsible for you being healed if you walk up at that hospital? Your own body. I don't care what drugs they gave you. I don't care if a naturopath came in there and gave you some supplement concoction. It's still your body. The only thing is that we got to understand how to get out of its way, and create that level of trust. See, when we get into, that's what I love so much about fasting, is because it really opens us up to this. We have to trust. We have to trust, one, that, okay, I'm not eating, and it's like each night you wake up, when you wake up, like from day one, day two, day three, you become more and more convinced because you feel better and better each day. You're like, wow, you come from, like, you know, having having challenges to get out of bed, but then it's like, because you didn't have any food, because your body didn't have the job of digestion overnight, all of that energy now is like transferred to healing. And that's the only healer. Okay, yeah, I can't lie, the munchies makes me overdose. Okay, yes. But I mean, respect to you, brother, because it's like, yeah, yeah, the munchies are going to be created if we're smoking, if we're smoking marijuana. But if that's the worst you're doing good, bro. Salute and respect. All right, how much of a compromise is coconut water in the cardboard Tetra containers? I mean, it's the best that we can. For not living in the tropics, it's to me, it's the only compromise. It's a healthy compromise to me. It's a compromise, but I don't think it's. I think you're going to more benefit anybody that's drinking coconut water, like, for example, out of the, we've seen them in the containers, the square Tetra containers, the cardboard containers. Um, to me, if that's the best that you could do, then you're doing okay. Obviously, we all should have a plan, or we should all create time to, get the real thing, even if, you don't plan on relocating to the tropics, like, you know, myself here. I think it's a good idea to at least, say, okay, if I'm going on vacation, go to a place where you're going to get fresh coconuts. Um, Maybe go to whether it's an Asian, Caribbean, international market, get the fresh coconuts. Um, and then I get asked about Thai coconuts, the Thai coconut. Now, I don't like the Thai coconuts. I would actually do the coconut water from whether it come from Brazil or there's like some other countries where they produce and make the coconut water and put it in these containers versus the Thai. I really don't like the Thai coconuts. I know that they're quote unquote fresh, but shaving the husks off, wrapping them in plastic, the taste does is. I mean, I've had coconuts from all over the world, and like there's a taste, like there's that taste. Those Thai coconuts don't taste like what I know a real coconut should taste. Have been to Panama, Brazil, Africa, Jamaica, Florida. I mean, yeah. I would do the ones in the carton before I do the Thai coconuts. All right, so I'm going through the questions here. Okay, all right, good question. Why you say pineapple isn't a fruit? Pineapple is because it doesn't have a seed. Uh, on a botanical level, it's actually a flower, and even the way it grows, like the pineapple, the top of the pineapple, that's how a pineapple. We actually take the flower, you put it in the ground, and you grow another pineapple bush, and you have a pineapple on top. And so technically, it's not a fruit where it bears a seed. The seed is in the leaf itself. So botanically, because it's what is the bromelain is the enzyme that we all know about, and bromella, I believe, is the botanical name, which again it gives us it's the fact that it's a flower and not a fruit. And flowers are under the umbrella, the fruitarian umbrella. Flowers. So the thing is, like, I think it's it's worth mentioning for those that like to talk about eating seedless fruits. Pineapple is not one of those that you can put under that that category when when those folks that want to come after hybrids and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So oh, it's a question about peristalsis is still good when I have coconut water from the cardboard. So I'm. Oh wow! Thanks for sharing that. Wow, that's amazing. Um, the fact that because coconut water, one thing I love about coconut water is coconut water will create peristalsis in the colon. And why does it? Now, other waters will not do that. Coconut water does it because coconut water is both a food and a water. Okay, not even fresh juices per se will do what coconut water does because again, the juices you separated the fiber, so it's not a whole food. So it's interesting that even though the coconut water has been processed and put into the the container, it still creates this peristalsis. So that's dope. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, okay, so yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Next week. Oh, well, I answered this last question here. Doesn't all fruits come from a flower. No, mostly fruits come from seeds. So you know, you have tree fruits, vine fruits, um, you know, you know, bushes, etc. And then you have flowers. So a lot of our flowers, especially if they have like for like you know, I know when I'm in Jamaica, you know, I'll see like different bushes of like color, like if you see colorful flowers, a lot of times those are edible, and you know that is part of our food. So so yeah, good question. So yeah, so next week we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification. I'm gonna be on live next week. We're gonna be going into the day of the week. So I'm gonna get into some Vedic astrology. We're gonna talk about, you know, it's really gonna be about astrology, but I'm gonna relate it to the health because you know we're all practicing astrology, whether we're practicing it consciously or not. We follow the days of the week, which are all given to our our stars that I like to call them. Like so I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna introduce you know, I do follow the flat earth concept. So I wanna use the opportunity to get into that. So I'm gonna get into flat earth, uh astrology, Indian Vedic astrology. I talk about the difference between that and your Greek tropical astrology, and then talk about what day, and hopefully maybe you get some clues into what day of the week would be ideal for you from an astrological basis. Uh, so so yeah, so tune in next week. I don't have it's gonna be on Thursday, and so I'm excited. But so yeah, so I'll see y'all next week. Peace and love.